Hi there, this is Jonathan Gorman from iCreative, and today we're going to talk about a truly remarkable tool used for editing photos called Markup. And Markup is a feature that's available on both iPhone, iPad, and Mac. We're going to talk about a little bit of a scenario here. So we own a golf club, and Jack Nicholas is coming in as a pro consultant to kind of help us make some changes to the golf course and to make it a little bit more appropriate for pro play. He's played the course a couple of times and he's realized that there's a couple of palm trees on the course that may need to be either removed or placed into a different area for various reasons. So in this particular photo, he wants to draw attention to a particular palm tree so that we can make some changes. So let's use the markup feature to do that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to tap once and then we're going to select edit in the top right. And of course all of our typical editing tools are listed under auto, and the ruler at the bottom is the sort of the control that you can use to change the amount of whatever value you'd like to apply to a photo with whatever tool you've chosen. But today we're going to talk about the tool in the very top right hand corner. That circle with the three dots in it, we call that the ellipsis, and if I tap on that once, it's going to reveal Markup. And I want you to take special note of the icon to the right of the word Markup. It looks like kind of a pencil tip inside of a circle. So I'm going to tap on this, and what happens is the same thing that would happen if we were on a Mac or an iPad, if you were marking up a PDF or an image. The tool set is really what differentiates Markup from anything else. And so the first thing that we'd like to do is use a really incredible feature, which is the magnifying tool. Now at the bottom you can see that we've got, a blue pen, a red marker, a kind of a fine tip blue pencil. To the right of that guy, there's the eraser icon. And, we've got the ruler and we've got the ways to manipulate color. And to the right of that is a plus. And the plus is just going to show us additional tools. And the first thing that we want to do is click on plus so that we can access that little menu. This menu reveals some really neat things. Number one, the text tool will add a text element to the image. A signature is really useful if you record your signature into the Markup program here on iPhone. It'll synchronize your signature to all of your other Apple devices over iCloud, which makes your signature available to you when you're on a Mac in PDF. And that's a really great tool that I explore in a different video. Next up is Magnifier, and then last but not least, that whole line of objects down at the bottom are things that you can easily apply to any image with a single tap. So we're going to start by tapping on the word magnifier. And what that does is it drops a magnifying glass onto our image. And if I'm going to now use my finger to tap in the center of that magnifier on that palm tree, and I'm just going to drag it over to the left a little bit. And there's a very, very particular palm tree that we're going to draw attention to using the Markup tool. The first thing that I want to talk about is the blue dot that is sort of in orbit around the magnifying glass itself. This is going to allow us, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap and put my finger right on that blue dot, and as I move the dot to the right or to the left, I'm ultimately changing the size of my magnifying glass. So if I wanted to draw attention to a very particular part of an image, then I can do that. So this is just giving me, this is changing the diameter of my actual magnifying glass. And that's a really neat feature. I'm going to go in a little bit more, make it a little bit bigger. And then the green one is really incredible. If I drag on this little dot, it's going to actually increase the amount of magnification inside my magnifying glass itself. And so that last palm tree on the right is the one that we are trying to isolate. So I'm actually going to maybe center it a little bit more. And I'm just dragging using my finger on the magnifying glass itself to accomplish this. I may even decide to make my magnifying glass just a little bit smaller. And now I'm pretty happy with where things are at this point. So I can tap outside of the magnifying glass element. So as I drop these little objects onto the image, I'm going to refer to them as elements. And as I've touched outside of the magnifying glass element, it kind of saves my changes. So you'll notice that I don't have to click on done. The top right word done in blue is the very, very last thing that I'm going to do before I am, to save the image once and for all. But each time I add an element or make any changes to an element, I don't have to, save it by clicking on done. As long as I tap away from the element, it's going to save the work that I've performed. So next up, I'm going to click on the plus. And the plus is going to reveal my little tool set again. And this time I'm going to tap on the arrow. And it drops an arrow pointing to the right that's colored in black right on top of, right in the middle of the image. You'll notice that when you select a new element, whether it's text or magnifying glass or an object or a shape, it's going to put it right into the middle. And so in the case of text, sometimes when you drop a text element in the middle of the image, it's a little bit hard to see. So just know that it's always going to put it in the center of the image, and that might help you figure out where it is. The next thing I need to do is you'll notice that my arrow, on the point of the arrow, there's a blue dot. In the middle, there's a green one. And at the tail end of it, there's another blue one. Well, I'm going to tap on the one at the end of the arrow on the left there to really just drag it up and over to change the direction of my arrow. And the next thing I want to do is drag that arrow over so that it really is pointing to the exact palm tree in question. And so to do that, I'm going to be very careful to put my finger on the black part of the arrow itself, not touching any of the blue or green dots. There we go. I'm going to push it really close to that particular tree. And now I want to point out a couple of really neat features. So number one, by using that blue button or the blue dot at the very end of the arrow, I can actually drag it out to make it longer. I can drag it in to make it shorter, and I can also kind of move it up to change exactly where it is. Now I've got a little bit of text to put in at the back end of this arrow, so I just want to make sure that it's going to be short enough to accommodate the text and also long enough to look, not silly. So then what is the green guy in the middle going to do for me? The green guy in the middle is going to allow me, if I wanted to put a little bend in it. Whoop. And so if I do it this way, now it's kind of pointing to the bush to the right of the tree and kind of doesn't do what we want it to do. If I move it up and down, where the green guy lands is where the bend is actually going to take place, which is kind of interesting. Now I'm just going to go back to, ultimately a pretty straight arrow. And I'll leave it right there, and it looks okay. Next up, I'm going to tap outside of my arrow to kind of save my changes. And now I can get a pretty good feel for the exact palm tree that I'm trying to draw attention to. But I don't want my arrow to be black. So I'm going to tap on my arrow again. And now I get all these little color swatches at the bottom. I could choose a very basic one, or I could choose on the little rainbow looking one to really get in and look at all kinds of different colors. This is a pretty wild menu. This is the colorful rainbow swatch in the bottom of the colors there. If I tap on that once, there's a lot going on here. There's 3 full tabs: grid, spectrum, and sliders, with tons of little options. You can really get in and get granular as to exactly how your color is going to appear. There's even a little ink dropper icon in the left there, which allows you to, if you select that, and then you can tap on any part of the image and it'll kind of replicate the color of the area that you've chosen. That's a really neat feature. Today I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to tap on the red at the bottom, and then I'm going to click on the X. And that's just simply going to make my arrow red, which is all I was really after. Okay, to save that, of course, I just tap outside of the arrow element, and now I've got a pretty clear distinction of which palm tree I'd like to affect. So last but not least, I'd like to add a text element. So I'm going to click on plus and tap on the word text. Now when I do that, if it wasn't for the little blue dots and the little blue square around it, the word text is kind of obscured in those palm trees. So this is what I was talking about, where sometimes when you add a text element to a document or an image, it might not be totally obvious exactly where it went. So these little blue dots are helpful. Now to move this up and to the right of that arrow, I'm just going to tap on the element itself and drag it up. The blue dots actually represent little handles that I can pull on to make the boundary of my text a little bit bigger. If I didn't make the boundary for the text big enough, it's going to make the text go down to the line beneath it, which in some cases isn't exactly what we wanted. So by default, I usually kind of drag it, to the left or right to make it big enough to accommodate all the text that I want to include in this element. Now I'm going to tap on the word text again, and this little window pops up. So just by tapping on the word text inside the text element brings up this little menu that allows me to copy, delete. I could even duplicate it if I wanted to put a couple of text elements onto this image. But in this case today, I'm just going to tap on the word edit. And this one is all I really needed to write on this. And if I tap outside of the text element, it gets saved. And that's kind of nice. And then I realized that the space between the end of the arrow and my text is a little bit far. So I'm now going to tap on my text element again. And it kind of brings it into edit mode, of course. And this time, I'm just going to tap on the words this one and just kind of drag it over a bit. Now, there's a few neat things that we can do to format the text, which I think are worth mentioning. In the bottom left of the screen, you'll see the small a and the big A. If I tap on those guys, I can actually choose from 3 fonts. So if I wanted to make it Georgia, just one tap gets me there, or Noteworthy. I'm going to go back to Helvetica. I think that looks okay. The slider is a really nice little feature because I can really granularly decide how big or small I would like the text to be. Just by sliding. I want it to be kind of big, but not too crazy. At the very bottom of that little pop-up, you'll also notice that I can left justify it inside of my boundary. I can right justify it or center it. And those can be kind of handy as well. And last but not least, I'd like to make the text white. So this time I'm going to tap on the little rainbow swatch at the bottom of the screen. And this is going to be really easy on this grid tab because in the top left you can see that the white swatch is just waiting for me right there. So I'm going to tap on that guy once. And then I'm going to tap outside of this little swatch screen, and suddenly I've got a complete document. When I tap on outside of the text element and onto the photo itself, I've now made it pretty clear exactly which tree we are trying to draw attention to in this image. And it's made it really, really kind of obvious to the person that sees this. And I think this is a really, really neat feature. On iPad, you can use the ruler at the bottom as a great way, if maybe you're redesigning your kitchen and you just wanted to kind of play with, drawing up a few nice looking rectangles of the kitchen to mimic some different arrangements. The eraser tool at the bottom, if you start to write on an image, so I can just tap on any of those pens at the bottom. So I've tapped on this red marker, and then I can freely, draw on the screen, which is kind of nice. If I want to undo what I just did at the top where it says the word markup, to the right of that you're going to see a little arrow that kind of swoops up to the left. If I tap on that guy once, it's going to undo my last action, which is really neat because I can just keep hitting it and undoing everything I've done if I wanted to rewind. So then if I put some more marks on this, the advantage of using the eraser tool is that when I tap on that, it isn't going to erase all of the red lines. It's just going to erase where I tap. And that's kind of a neat feature. So you can get in and you can kind of make some little erase changes. If you wanted to leave a little bit of the red on there, you could. In our case, we'll just wipe it all out. And that's kind of a handy trick to know as well. If this is a PDF document, you can simply tap on the word signature, and that'll show all the signatures that have been saved. I'm going to tap on that one sort of initial looking one toward the bottom, and it drops a signature onto the page. Of course, I can, if I wanted to change the color, I could tap on the color swatch in the bottom right and then change it to white again, tap outside of that, and it changes it to white. I can make it bigger or smaller by dragging on my little bubbles. And if I wanted to record a new one, it's a little bit goofy on iPhone unless you have a stylus, because you'll have to be doing it with your finger, but it is possible to do it if I just tap on the word signature and add or remove signature. And I'm going to click on plus in the top left. And it's just going to give me an area to draw my signature openly. If you have a little stylus, it's going to make it a little bit easier to get something that's a bit closer to your actual signature. And the minute that I click on done, now if I go back and tap on plus and go to signature, that additional new signature will be there at the top. And so I'm going to edit this. Now, a really incredible thing has also just happened that I want to draw to your attention. If you have a Mac, an Apple computer, this signature has also just synchronized up and over to your other computers and iPads. And if you were to go into a PDF document, select the markup tool, and then go to tap on the signature tool, this new signature will automatically appear there. It's really neat how it synchronizes all of them across all your devices. So I'm going to click on add or remove a signature, and this time I'm just going to wipe out that new one by doing the minus. Click on done, and then I'm going to tap on the arrow to the right of the word markup to undo that, and to undo that last insertion of the signature. And now in the top right of the screen, I'm going to click on done, and it's going to save my image. It's going to save what I've done with the markup tool. If I really want to save everything that I've done on this, then I have to hit done one more time in the bottom right. Now it's been fully saved. However, if I tap on edit at this point, I also have the option to undo everything that I've done to this image by simply tapping on revert in the bottom right. And it's just going to revert to the original, and all of my markup changes will be deleted. So that's also really handy. I hope you find some incredible value with the markup tool. I think it's so neat and so powerful what it's doing. Some of these features are going to be a little bit easier for you to control on iPad just simply because of the bigger screen. But I think with a little bit of work, you can really get it going, and I hope you find some great value here. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day.